Okay, folks, here we are. We are in the midst of this craziness, and I have my friend David Richter. We've known each other for a little bit, and he's actually invested with me. Ain't that right, David?
I have, yes.
Yeah, so it's really
Very
good
well.
stuff. Yeah, good
Yeah.
stuff. So, as you can see in the background there, I says profit first right there because I think there's some things that we investors really don't understand. I didn't understand this either until I read this book. I wish I started doing this 4 years ago when I first started. I am not well prepared for what's happening today. Maybe some of you are not well prepared either. So it's really tough. It's really tough. So I invited David to talk about some of the things that we need to do like right now, and he's very good at this. He's been around very smart people more than me. So and I respect this man tremendously. So David, it's all yours, brother. We just go back and forth. Go right ahead.
Sure. Well, if you don't mind, I'll give just a little bit of my background so people know kind of who I am. I I bought my first house when I was 19, so that was like last year. Just kidding. No, that was about 10 years ago now. And I bought it and I fixed it up, rented it, had super tenant in there, paid early, and then he cashed me out because it was a rent to own arrangement. He cashed me out 6 months later. So I was like, I need to keep doing this. So I hooked up with another company that was in my area, and they were doing about 100 wholesale deals in a year when I first started, and they were meeting in a little house with people working out of closets. There was about 5 to 7 people when I first started there. And then I worked there for about 5 years where I was doing acquisitions, dispositions, the accounting, transaction coordination, project management, property management. So I got to see a lot of different aspects of a business and of a real estate investing business because we were doing wholesaling, fix and flipping, seller financing, lease to own. We were doing everything and in between. And at our highest point, we were doing about 30 deals a month. So it got pretty crazy big where we had 25 to 30 employees too. So I got to see a lot of things firsthand of how to run a real estate business and how not to run a real estate business too. I mean, when you have that much going on. So it was a really good opportunity. And I really owe a lot to those guys too. It was Wayne Schaefer, Tom Olson, and Gary Harper. So if you know those names, that's where I kind of cut my teeth for years and years and in that operation. So then I was buying rentals on the side myself. And then I moved to Richmond, Virginia about a year and a half ago, and from that operation to where I was working with Rich Lennon. And Rich, one of the big things I helped Rich with was his books. It was knowing his numbers and really getting to where he knew where to stand. And that took quite a while too. He had some people in there that from before that really didn't know what they were doing. So it took about probably a good 8 months to get it all cleaned up. And and now he's got it to the date and whatnot, and that really helped him. And that kind of sparked my interest of like, okay, a lot of investors know that it's important to know their financials and know their numbers, but they don't know how to get it there, or they don't like it. A lot of people just say financials, whatever, that's for the accountant, that's for the bookkeeper, and they can do all that stuff. But it's so important to know your numbers, to actually be in that position. So that's why I started the company I did, Simple CFO Solutions, is to really help investors know their numbers and know where they stand, put together a plan, and implement profit first. So that's just a little bit about my background and where I come from and why I started Simple CFO Solutions. I'm not a CPA or an accountant or anything. I'm really like you. I know investor speak and I know how to speak accountant and them. And I'm really more like, here's what they're telling you, or like what the numbers are really telling you, and what you need to be doing from there. So that's really my area of expertise now, and that's what I help investors do right now.
Yeah,
So
awesome.
John, if you
Yeah, you're so right, and that's the one I gravitated to you because you talk investor, which is awesome. All right, so how about go ahead and give these people that are hurting right now, and I think that's pretty much all of us. What do we need to do? The first maybe two or three things that we need to do right now.
First thing I would say is really know where you stand. What is your survival number and your cash on hand? Like, how long could you survive with your cash on hand if no income was coming in? I would get that number almost right away, even before you might apply for some of these loans, just to know how long could you last in this market if all your rentals dried up, if you weren't able to sell the houses, if everything went away, I would try and get that number as soon as possible. Just how many months or weeks or days or quarters could you last? So that would be the first thing. Second thing, almost right away, which everyone and their mother right now is talking about, is these loans for the small businesses or the investors, and for the small businesses that the government's giving out now. The PPP loan, the Paycheck Protection Program loan, which if you're a sole proprietor, an independent contractor, or have employees, that covers more of your payroll for either paying yourself or paying W-2 employees. Where they've got another loan, the EIDL loan, which is the Economic Injury Disaster Loan, which that one is more for like your operating expenses. That one's more for your day-to-day operations. So I would be applying for those right away too, if you need to go and get a cash influx. It won't be probably right away because of how many people are applying. So my impetus to you is to get out there and do it right now. Go out there and apply. For the EIDL, it's right online. Someone could probably in the chat box drop that link to the actual page, because it's a very simple application process for that loan. The PPP loan for the payroll, which is forgivable, that one's through your bank, not a local bank, but through a bank that you might already have deposits with. You just need to go and ask them, do you have, are you set up to do these loans, the Paycheck Protection Program loans? So that would be another thing, because that's a way to get cash influx. One of the PPP loan is forgivable. So that's where that would potentially, if you use it just for like payroll or utilities, or there were some things that on the PPP, the actual guidelines, if you use that for, it's forgivable, meaning it's not even a loan. So, but you have to use it for that, but then it turns into a loan if you don't use all the money and if you don't use it for the proper things. The EIDL loan is a true loan. It's like a 30-year, 3.75 interest loan. So it's a really good loan, but it's to help you cover your cash flow right now. I would also say, besides going after those loans, look at what income opportunities you have. What income opportunities do you have? Is that your rentals? And like John has been pushing, I love seeing his posts, but communicating with your tenants, your lenders, the relationships in your life, making sure that those are strong. Because right now you might have to work out plans with residents or your tenants right now. You might have to work out a plan, but your tenants, that is your asset. The house is an asset, but your tenant is too. You want that relationship with them. If you take care of them now and they're not ripping you off, they're not one of the ones who are just going to say, I'm on rent strike, that's a different breed. But if the ones that truly are hurting and you make a plan now, if you show that you're a human being and take care of them, they'll take care of you too. So make sure you're communicating with your tenants, your lenders, with anyone in your circle. That's why I love these types of things too. Just those reminders of making sure you do that. Another thing, if you've got properties right now to sell, whether it's wholesaling, fixing and flipping, turnkeying, whatever you do, it's really pushing to see how can you get those off your plate. And that's where a network like this is great. It's like someone especially if you're in the same local markets, it's getting with them, maybe having more communication now than you ever have with your local people or even people abroad or national of, okay, I have a house now. It's a great deal. It really is, either for retail or wholesale. If you connect with enough people, you're going to be able to move that house. There are still people buying properties. They're just a lot fewer and a lot farther between right now. So I would say try and get anything you have on your plate off your plate as far as selling it. And then especially with your tenants and if you have tenants or whatnot, then communicating with them. So those are hopefully some applicable things you can go out right now and do to help you get either some cash into your account or to make sure that you're getting something in. As far as going out of your account, you need to be looking at your expenses. That's why it's so important to know your numbers. That's why it's so important to know, okay, this is where I am. This is my monthly nut of what I need to cover. And what can I do to shave off of that, especially during this time? Like for me, I went through my expenses, and I do this monthly anyway. I have a monthly meeting with my right-hand guy, and we go through my expenses and okay, is there anything I can cut out, or do we need to add anything in order to generate more revenue right now? Now, a lot of people right now need to be looking at it as from the aspect of, is there anything that I really don't need? And I would be very careful in cutting out things that wouldn't potentially bring you income. Now I'm a part of, like, for what I do, I'm a part of some masterminds. If I cut out, and those are big expenses. If I cut those out though, that ties right into revenue for me. So I would be very careful about cutting those out because it's revenue, it's relationships. So those things that are actually going to help you get through this time, be careful about letting those go. But those things that you might not need, that hit your bank account every single month, we all have those subscriptions, those anything that's going on, and you're like, I didn't even remember I had this on there. So you need to go through, and just sitting down and looking at that will just help you, because anything you save right now is going to multiply almost tenfold down the road that you can save. If you can save it from going out the door right now, it's just helping you prepare for your future and helping you down the road too. So hopefully that was some very practical things, John. I don't know if you want to comment on any of that.
Oh no, you hit exactly what I was talking about early on, and when I talk to other people too, as you see my post too, I try to be very positive and give tips all I can. That after I read Profit First, the first thing I did really was my expenses. Even before this COVID thing was happening, I started looking at my expenses. So I'm actually fine tuning my business, and I had a lot of fat. There's a lot of fat in my business money was going out, and you're the one that told me, John, you need to understand your books. So what I did right after that webinar you had with, I believe it was John Heyer and Rich,
Okay.
I went back and looked at it, and boy, I was mad at myself. I said, my God, what an idiot. I had so much fat. So now I'm starting to cut that off. Then of course COVID hit. Well, guess one thing, I'm not changing it though. I'm sticking to the course. It hurts, it does, but you have to maintain. That's why people, when you read the Profit First, you're going to see there's buckets that they call in there, or accounts. Don't change anything, but you start very, very small. Why don't you expand on that, my brother?
Sure. So Profit First. So that's one of the things that John had posted on there, and there's the book right there, because a couple people had asked. So John's got it right next to his head. So that's the one. If you're looking for that book, that's the one to go after.
Yeah, I got the book right here. This is it right here.
There
Profit
it is. There it is
First.
again.
That's the book. That's the book.
So that book, if any of you are a fan of Dave Ramsey, or have heard of the checkbook system for your, or I'm sorry, the envelope system for your personal finances, it's basically that system for real estate investors and for small businesses. It is literally setting up different bank accounts, either for the main accounts are like your profit, your owner's compensation, your operating expenses, and a tax account, and setting up different accounts at any time income comes in, allocating a percentage of that income to those different accounts. So that's really, in a very high level nutshell, that's what it is. That's what Profit First is all about. Because then that way you know, okay, if I'm allocating this certain percentage for operating expenses and a certain percentage for the other areas, if I don't have enough money to pay my expenses out of that operating expense account that you've said, this is what I think I could live off of for the operating expenses, then you need to trim that fat. That's where it kind of forces you to lean down and to really trim all of that, so that way you know exactly where you are. And let's face it too, how many investors really dive into their books on a daily basis? No, everyone looks at their bank balances. I look at my bank balances, okay? And like everyone does that. Everyone looks at what's in their bank account usually if you're an investor versus actually diving into your books. Profit First helps you kind of see, okay, this is how much I have in this account for my profit or for my operating expenses or my taxes. That's another thing. How many investors don't just save throughout the deals that they're doing throughout the year, or their rental income to save for taxes at the end? Just setting up another account just to be able to save for taxes, so that way when tax time comes, you don't have to say, hey, I have to do 2 more deals right now, or I have to go do a deal just so I could cover my tax liability or my tax bill. So setting up those accounts. But then from there too, I also like setting up another bank account for other people's money. Meaning, like, if you get money in from someone else to cover like the operation of a property, like for the purchase price and the rehab, and you get that overfunding, like if it's a $50,000 property, the purchase price, and it's a $50,000 rehab, well, you get when the property closes, you might get $50,000 in to your bank account for that rehab, above and beyond the purchase price from that lender. I like putting that into another account, the other people's money account, so you're not commingling your own funds and using other people's money to fund your operation, because a lot of investors do that. I would say it's a pretty high number too. 80 to 85% use that other people's money just to fund their day-to-day operations, and that
I
is
think that's
so
kind of
dangerous.
low.
That's
I think it's higher
yeah.
than 80%.
It could be. I haven't talked to thousands of investors yet, but I know it's very high, that it's where you're probably using funds from an operation, from a lender for your operations. And that's just so dangerous to do that, because you don't want to be using that for your operation. You want to be using profit. And that's why people say, well, then, I can't do that if I'm only doing 1 or 2 flips. Well, then maybe you need another job to cover your expenses, so you're not using other people's money in order to do that. So you really need to be careful about that. That's why I like Profit First too. It kind of makes you shift your mentality from like, I need to reinvest every single dollar back into my business, and I don't need to pay myself or worry about profit. I just need to, reinvest every single dollar. Well, no, you need to run this like a business. You need to be able to, if you don't have a business that can support you, you don't really have a business. You're either living off of someone else's dime, or maybe a spouse or someone else that might be working a full-time job. You don't have a business if you can't pay yourself. So that's where Profit First says, okay, every dollar that comes in, apportion it to a certain bank account. And that's why, if you've ever read like The Richest Man in Babylon, where it's an older book, and he says right in there, the first one of his first principles is pay thyself. Make sure you're paying yourself first. And as a business owner, you have that opportunity. You have that because a W-2 employee, what happens? You get your payroll, you get your paycheck, but your taxes are already taken out. As an entrepreneur, you get to say, hey, I get the money in, and then I'm going to apportion this to profit, or I'm going to apportion this to, these other different accounts. And you get to say, if I'm going to live off the rest or whatnot, that I'm going to actually live off of what is after my profit. So, and a lot of people ask, well, what's a reasonable dollar or percentage amount? When you're first starting out, start with 1%. Start with a percentage you can actually hit. The most important thing is consistency. And I could do a whole webinar just on consistency. But that's really the key to your finances, to real estate, to a lot of things in life, is being consistent. Is consistently making it a habit, especially in your finances, to put away money that is your own money, and being consistent and making sure that becomes the habit to you. Because when you might be small now, but if you want to grow larger, and if you want to actually do more deals, or you want to build a team or whatever, or maybe you want to stay small, but you want to be actually profitable. This is one of those first steps, making sure that from every single piece of income that comes in, you're apportioning it to a certain account, so that way hey, I've got profit here, I've got my taxes here, here's my operating expenses. He also tells in the book too about the formula the formula for your profit is usually sales minus expenses equals profit. So like anything left over after you pay everything is your profit. Well, in the book, he says, flip that on its head. It's sales minus profit equals your expenses. So you can only spend out of what's left over of what you take for profit. That's why you have to be careful, of course, of what you're actually apportioning to profit. But that's that mentality of saying, okay, in order to be an effective business, I need to be profitable. Because as you're seeing right now, during this whole time, the businesses that are going to come through are the ones that had profit and that had cash on hand to weather this storm. And where do you get that cash on hand? By having these accounts, by being disciplined and consistent, and putting money away in there for a rainy day like this, where it might be several months before everything gets stabilized or whatnot. So I hope that was a clear enough overview, and that really, explained it at a higher level.
You know what I like about that is definitely in that book, it says cash is extremely important here. So that's why when you put that money away, it's creating kind of like a rainy day fund in all essence. Yep. So you put that away. And then I like the analogy that he uses. So if you have toothpaste that is halfway done already, don't most of us really try to squeeze every little bit out of that, and we won't buy another bottle or a toothpaste yet, right? We want to squeeze everything out of that thing. Well, that was the analogy that this guy said. So if you have a full brand new toothpaste, right? Man, you just squeeze the living daylights out of that thing. But then when you're like down to half or down to a third, Well, you try to skimp now, right? So this is the exact same concept. You put the money away, you don't touch it. So whatever's left over, that's now where you run your business. Whatever's left over from everything that came in, but you pay everything else first. The leftover is what you do, but the profit first goes away. You save it.
Yep. Yeah, no, I love that, and I love his analogies in the book. That's why you need to pick up the book. I don't get anything for saying pick up the book, but pick up the book. You
I
know,
know,
like
me
it's such
neither.
a
I don't get anything
great message here. So it's and he's got a lot of good comparisons like that, and a lot of good. Well, he goes into really the nuts and bolts inside of there. So it's a really great book to pick up to really run your finances. It's a really it's a cash flow management system too for your business. You know what you should know what your cash flow is for your rentals and whatnot. Well, this is a cash flow system for your business.
So now let's go to the books. I know that you have this company that I am your client and I'm happy. And there's other people that I've referred you to, they're happy. I have a couple of people here in Huntsville that are your clients now too. They're happy. So why don't you give them the importance of the books? Why does it like correlate, especially when you try to do this SBA loans that are out there right now? Why is that important? And how can you help these people if they want your services?
Oh, sure. So I've got two different companies. One is just a straight bookkeeping company that I have a bookkeeping manager and a bookkeeping team that handles all of that. So that's the one that John's a part of. And it's super important to know your books. I mean, you need to have meetings regularly with your bookkeeper. You need to know what the numbers are. You need to be looking at your financials, because if you don't know them, you won't have the power to know where you stand. That really unlocks. Honestly, your numbers tell your story. If you want to be able to tell the story of your company, you need to know the numbers of your business. So it really, as an investor, if you're going to a lender, that just gives them more peace of mind knowing that you know where you stand. It's just, there's so many benefits. So know where you stand. And that's where you can go to ralbookkeeping.com, ralbookkeeping.com. And that's where if you want to apply for the bookkeeping there, that's for one of them. Or the other company is Simple CFO Solutions. That's where I get involved, and I work with about 9 to 10 companies where we go through and we implement profit first. I'm holding you accountable to do profit first, but I'm also in there interpreting the numbers too. Because if you're like, I still don't know my numbers, or like they're doing a great job on the bookkeeping, but I don't know my numbers, that's where I come in to kind of be that interpreter. So I've got the two different companies. One's just straight bookkeeping, and one is more of a higher level service, getting into your books with you and also going through profit first and doing something like that. So if you go to Simple CFO Solutions, that's that other company where I get involved personally. And that one I work with only about 9 to 10 companies in a month. I actually am talking now with another guy that's helping me increase that to 20 companies in a month too, just because we've had so much demand on that side for that. So I think I'm going to be able to almost double that number over here in the next couple quarters. So there's the two different types of business. One is straight bookkeeping. One is more consulting and me actually being on that side, helping you with your books. The one was ralbookkeeping.com. The other one is simplecfosolutions.com. I did want to say too, I wrote a book myself too, where I actually wrote it. It's Less More Profit for the Serious Real Estate Investor. It's a really short book. It's shorter than Profit First. I usually, when I go to
Looks like we're
get the
losing you,
info,
my friend.
Less Stress, More Profit at Gmail. Oh, did you lose me?
Yeah, say it again.
Okay. If you want the book, the Less Stress, More Profit at gmail.com, or if you go to Less Stress, More Profit at gmail.com, if you send an email there, it will send you back automatically the audio version of this book and the Kindle version of this book, like a PDF download. So this just gives some practical things that I talked about today and goes through Profit First a little bit too. So if you want that book, I want to give it away free for here, usually when I'm on Zoom calls. If you took the time to listen to me, I want to make sure I give something back too. So that was, if you go to Less Stress, More Profit at gmail.com, sorry, if you send an email there with just do the subject line as John Morey Zoom call or something like that, it'll send you back an autoresponder.
Awesome. All right, my friend. I know we're almost running out of time here. And as you know, I'm trying to bring other people like you on here. So our audiences, man, I'm surprised we have over 40 people, which is great. Thank you so much. And I really appreciate it. The next time we're gonna have somebody else on here. So David, thank you so much, my friend. I really appreciate you helping people because we are in a time of need. A lot of people don't understand we're in this together. You know, I'm
Yep.
not, you know me, I'm not about scarcity or like that. I'm about helping. So
Yep.
you are in the same way. You know, we're the same. We came from the same tree, same fruit. So I really, really appreciate you. Everybody, thank you so much. All right. So any more words of wisdom, my friend?
Just if you haven't already applied for one of those things, go out and apply and look at your numbers. I would just say get into your numbers, cut those expenses, and get that income coming in during this time.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much, everybody. You know, if you're not on Facebook with me yet, please just connect with me and we're in this together. Okay. So there'll be more people that I'm trying to connect with to do a Zoom. All right. So folks, see you guys later. Have a good
Awesome.
afternoon.
Thanks, John.
Thanks,
Thank you,
David.
everyone.
Bye-bye.
Yep. Bye.